In the dim-lit corridors of hospices and hospital rooms around the world, a curious and profound phenomenon has been quietly unfolding for centuries. As life ebbs away, many dying patients report experiencing something beyond the tangible, a series of vivid visions that seem to guide them across the threshold between life and death. These so-called deathbed phenomena, or DBP, have intrigued doctors, nurses, and researchers alike, raising questions about the nature of consciousness, the afterlife, and the dying process itself. Deathbed phenomena, sometimes referred to in medical literature as death-related sensory experiences, or DRSE, typically manifest as visions of deceased loved ones, religious figures, or a symbolic language of travel. Patients often speak of needing to pack a suitcase, board a train, or cross a river. For the dying and their caregivers, these experiences can provide a sense of solace and a gentle easing into the unknown. Yet not everyone encounters these comforting visions, and for some, the end of life is marked by terminal restlessness, a state of anxiety and agitation that raises a pressing question: what determines whether death comes peacefully or with struggle? Stories of deathbed visions are far from new. Across cultures and centuries, they have been recounted in whispered family tales and religious texts. However, scientific inquiry into these experiences only began in earnest in the 20th century. One of the earliest systematic studies was conducted by the British physician William Barrett, who in 1926 published Deathbed Visions, a collection of patient accounts detailing encounters with deceased relatives and ethereal music. Barrett, a Christian spiritualist, believed these visions were evidence of spirit communication, a notion that found resonance with many, but skepticism among others. Fast forward to the mid-20th century, and researchers Carlis Osis and Erlander Haraldson expanded the investigation. Between 1959 and 1973, they surveyed thousands of doctors and nurses in the United States and India, discovering that nearly half of the dying patients in their study reported experiencing visions. While their findings fueled debates about the afterlife, skeptics such as psychologist Terence Hines pointed to methodological flaws, highlighting the challenges of relying on second-hand reports from medical staff rather than first-hand accounts from patients themselves. Modern science continues to grapple with these experiences, often attributing them to physiological factors. Psychopharmacologist Ronald K. Siegel noted striking similarities between deathbed visions and hallucinations induced by drugs, suggesting they could stem from cerebral hypoxia, when the brain is deprived of oxygen, or other physiological changes associated with organ failure. Researchers argue that the brain, in its final moments, might construct comforting illusions, drawing from the patient's memories and beliefs to ease the transition. Skeptics such as investigator Joe Nickell have dissected popular accounts of deathbed visions, pointing out contradictions and inconsistencies. According to Nickell, anecdotal evidence alone is unreliable, and without rigorous scientific validation, deathbed phenomena should be regarded with caution. Despite the skepticism, hospice workers and palliative care professionals witness these occurrences with striking regularity. A 2009 survey conducted among Irish hospice staff found that the majority had encountered reports of deathbed visions from patients or their families. Nurses and caregivers have reported patients reaching out to unseen figures, conversing with long-deceased loved ones, or gazing in wonder at invisible landscapes. In the final moments, these visions often bring a profound sense of peace. "We can support the dying best by believing them," says retired hospice nurse Georgia Metz from Brooklyn, New York. Her years in the field have shown her countless examples of patients experiencing otherworldly encounters. One particular patient, dying of lung cancer, believed he was climbing the stairs to heaven in his final hours. About an hour later, he died peacefully, Metz recalls. In many cases, patients employ symbolic language related to travel. Some speak of needing to board a train, prepare a suitcase, or meet a long-lost friend at a station. This phenomenon is so common that hospice workers consider it a signal that death is near. Caregivers like Denise Brindle, a hospice nurse from Colorado, recount instances where patients feel their rooms growing crowded with visitors, believing loved ones from the beyond have come to escort them. For families, witnessing these visions can be a source of great comfort. Karen Stein, whose mother passed away in 2023, recalls how her mother, in her final days, greeted her deceased father with a bright, hopeful expression. She said, "Hi, Dad," as if he was standing right there. Stein shares, "Moments like these can transform grief into acceptance, offering reassurance that loved ones are not alone in their final journey." But what about those who do not experience these visions? A troubling counterpart to deathbed visions is terminal restlessness, a state of extreme agitation and distress often seen in the final stages of life. Patients suffering from terminal restlessness may become confused, anxious, or experience hallucinations that are anything but comforting. This raises a compelling question: is there a connection between the absence of peaceful deathbed phenomena and the onset of terminal restlessness? Researchers are beginning to explore whether patients who do not report visions are more likely to experience difficult deaths. The interplay between psychological, spiritual, and physiological factors remains largely unexplored. But understanding this relationship could hold the key to providing better end-of-life care. One of the biggest barriers to understanding deathbed phenomena is the reluctance of patients and caregivers to discuss them. Fear of being labelled as delusional or irrational often prevents people from sharing their experiences. Sociologists and psychologists, such as Peter Fenwick and Elizabeth Brain, have argued that medical professionals should create a more accepting space for these conversations. In their research, they emphasise that acknowledging and validating these experiences can enhance the dying process, offering a final sense of resolution and peace. Across different cultures, deathbed phenomena take on unique forms. In Western contexts, patients commonly report seeing Christian figures or deceased family members, while in Eastern traditions, visions may involve spiritual guides or ancestors. These cultural nuances suggest that one's personal beliefs and expectations may shape the nature of deathbed experiences. A particularly moving account comes from Milena Fiore, whose mother, a German Holocaust survivor, reported seeing her long-deceased Jewish relatives in the days before her passing. Despite having converted to Catholicism in her final days, she sought the comfort of a rabbi and found peace in reconnecting with her Jewish heritage. Her face was illuminated when she passed, Fiore says. She simply said, "Oh, the love." As the body of anecdotal and clinical evidence surrounding deathbed visions continues to grow, so too does the need for further scientific inquiry. If such experiences can indeed bring comfort and ease suffering, integrating them into palliative care practices could be invaluable. Recognizing deathbed phenomena not as mere hallucinations, but as meaningful end-of-life events could change the way we approach dying, offering new insights into the human experience of mortality. In the end, whether one views deathbed visions as glimpses into an afterlife, comforting psychological constructs, or inexplicable mysteries, they remain a profound part of the dying process. As hospice nurse Keith Walters puts it, we learn to read them as signals that death was near, and it always was. Witnessing them is an honour and a reminder of the beauty in the final moments of life.